coming up on Network Africa. Protests and clashes erupt in Nairobi as activists accuse French President Emmanuel Macron of lecturing Africans at the Africa-France summit. The Ghanaian government said to evacuate nationals from South Africa following protests against foreign nationals. Plus, tributes pour in for Nigerian actor Alex Okubo, who died after a battle with cancer. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amarachi Ubani. We begin the program in Nairobi, Kenya. Host of the just concluded France-Africa summit, tensions have erupted as protesters clashed with police over a comment that the French President Emmanuel Macron made when he interrupted some speakers during the summit to ask people to keep quiet. While crowds accused France of neo-colonial interference across Africa, condemning its military presence and influence in the Sahel region. Police fired tear gas on activists as they flooded the streets, chanting anti-imperialist slogans and rejecting what they described as Western hypocrisy. President Macron was in Kenya for the France-Africa Forward Summit, where discussions focused on digital sovereignty and reforming the global financial system amid growing anti-French sentiment across parts of the continent.
The majority of the Western Hemisphere are the responsible for the destruction of our mother planet. So they cannot tell us that coming to lecture us about tree planting, while every time they are destroying our planet. So we are going to the street today to demonstrate to the Kenyan people that there are some sane people in Kenya who are able to advance an anti-imperialist agenda.
Emmanuel Macron represents French imperialism, not Pan-Africanism. He is not a Pan-Africanist, he is an imperialist. What have they done to the Sahel? What have they done to Cote d'Ivoire? What have they done to Gaddafi in Libya? That's the heritage of French imperialism, not in the 19th century, not even in the 20th century, that's all in the 21st century. That's what their face is like. There's no development. When they say development, it's development of their military bases, not development for the Kenyan people. It's not Pan-Africanism.
Meanwhile, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has welcomed the outcomes of the 10th France-Nigeria Business Council meeting on the sidelines of the Africa Forward Summit in Nairobi, Kenya, describing them as a clear signal that Nigeria and France are moving from dialogue to delivery. A statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Ononuga, says with trade between both countries reaching $4.7 billion in 2025, and Nigeria remaining the top destination for French investment in sub-Saharan Africa, President Tinubu says the relationship now carries real economic weight and must be translated into more jobs, industries, infrastructure, and shared prosperity. The meeting, which was also attended by the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investments, Jumoke Oduwole, and France's Minister Delegate, Nicolas Forissier, saw leading Nigerian and French businesses provide updates on key projects and commit to expanding collaboration between both countries. President Tinubu commended the current chairman of the France-Nigeria Business Council, Igboje Ike Imokwede, for convening a productive session that brought together leading Nigerian and French private sector players. He also acknowledged the participation of Aliko Dangote, Abdul Ramat Sabiu, Tony Elumelu, Wale Tinubu, Kola Karim, Kashim Bukar, Patrick Poigne of Total Energies and other partners, whose presence reflects growing confidence in Nigeria's reform direction. Burkina Faso's military junta has widened its sweeping crackdown on civil society, suspending another 247 organizations, in a move that has sparked international concern. The latest ban targets groups working in health education, women's rights, agriculture, and culture, bringing the total number of dissolved or suspended associations to more than 900 in just weeks. The government claims the measures are aimed at enforcing the law, while critics accuse the junta of tightening its grip on dissent. Rights organizations now warn that democratic freedoms in Burkina Faso are rapidly disappearing under military rule. To Ghana now, where a political storm is unfolding after a member of parliament, Kwame Ohene Frimpong, was detained at Amsterdam's Schiphol airport. The arrest is reportedly tied to an international investigation linked to the FBI involving alleged financial crimes worth millions of dollars. While authorities have yet to confirm formal charges, Ghana's parliament says diplomatic efforts are underway to uncover the full circumstances behind the detention. The case is already sparking intense public scrutiny, both in Ghana and abroad. We're still in Ghana, which has announced plans to evacuate 300 citizens from South Africa following renewed anti-foreigner protests and fears of violence. Foreign Minister Samuel Ablakwa says the evacuation is approved after distressed Ghanaians registered at the embassy in Pretoria seeking rescue. The warning comes as thousands of South Africans protest against illegal immigration, blaming foreigners for rising crime, unemployment and housing pressures. President Cyril Ramaphosa has condemned the attacks on foreign nationals, insisting the violence does not reflect the government policy, while Ghana and several African nations urge citizens to remain cautious amid growing tensions. Ghanaian journalist Maxwell Agbaba is in Durban, South Africa, from where he joins us. Maxwell, great to reconnect with you. Will this be the first time Ghanaians are being repatriated as a result of these kinds of protests? And then what class of Ghanaians are returning? Are they undocumented or just business people who are affected by the attacks and the protests?
Well, I'm not actually. So at the beginning of the attacks, when the attacks started here in South Africa, the Ghana's High Commission in Pretoria actually sent a message around, now advising Ghanaians who were distressed about what was happening, alerting them that they can actually register and be repatriated to Ghana. So many of them registered and expressed interest to be repatriated back to and be repatriated to Ghana. So yesterday, the Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Ablakwa put out a statement and said that President Mahama, the president of Ghana, has granted approval, a presidential approval, for the 300 persons who have registered, to be repatriated to Ghana. Well, you ask the category of persons who are going to be repatriated. What we know that it's a mix of the people who are affected. We know that it includes persons who are documented living here in South Africa. It also includes students. We know that it also includes persons who may not be documented. So generally, it's a mix of people. Some who are documented, others who are not documented, and then some students who really feel unsafe about the situation and what is happening.
So we are aware of violent attacks against Nigerians and what has been the experience of the Ghanaians who live in South Africa. For example, you who is in Durban, what has been your experience so far?
Well, I should say that things have stabilized a bit. We've been here for the past 5 days of 5 days here in Durban and then 4 days in Johannesburg. And let me say that things have stabilized a bit after the president of the country wrote an open letter calling for restraint and urging citizens not to take the law into their own hands. He actually stated in that open letter to South Africans not to take the law into their own hands, and said that any acts of violence would not be tolerated. Since then, we've seen some kind of peace and stabilization when it comes to the issue. Although, you hear few people talking about it, we've seen things have stabilized, quite a bit. And here in Durban, yesterday, for instance, we heard there was going to be a protest, but that protest did not happen today, giving you an indication about how things have stabilized a bit. But when you speak to some of the foreigners who are here, some of them still express that fear that although the president has allayed their fears and said measures have been put in place to deal with the situation, they still feel a bit, a bit scared about what is happening.
Maxwell, 300 people is quite a number, and they have registered at the High Commission in Pretoria, as you mentioned earlier. So will the government of Ghana be taking on the travel expenses of these citizens?
Well, from my sources at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we are told that in situations like this, government will prioritize the safety of the Ghanaians over expenses. So as it stands now, we know that government is likely going to take up the cost of the repatriation of the, of the Ghanaians. We're told that at this point in time, safety is paramount, to the government, and we want to ensure that everyone is safe. So for those who have expressed interest, there is the 100% chance that they wouldn't have to pay, anything, to get back to Ghana.
Maxwell, the repatriation, is it a final move for these Ghanaians, or can they return later?
Well, my source at the ministry who I've been speaking to tells me that this is actually a temporary measure and a temporary measure waiting for things to stabilize before they would see whether they can return. So for people who have legitimate permit, to return to South Africa, or residency permits to return to South Africa, it is likely that they are going to return. I mean, for those who are undocumented, then what it means is it will be difficult for them to get back. So for those who are documented, who have their residency permits, yes, it will be possible, for them to get back. For those who are undocumented, that is likely not going to be possible unless they put in place the necessary measures and get the necessary documentation before they will be allowed to travel out and come back here to South Africa.
Well, Maxwell, we wish you all of the best in South Africa. Do stay safe, and safe travels to those who are coming back to Ghana.
Thank you.
Well, in eastern Chad, the country is grappling with a deepening humanitarian emergency as hundreds of thousands flee the ongoing conflict in neighboring Sudan. Since April 2023, nearly 1 million refugees have crossed the border, overwhelming already fragile camps and stretching health services to the brink. Women and children make up the majority of those displaced, with tens of thousands of pregnancies, adding urgency to an already critical situation. Aid agencies warn that severe funding shortages are threatening life-saving care as the crisis continues to intensify with no immediate relief in sight.
This is the one delivery room catering for tens of thousands of women and girls. This room delivers 300 babies per month in the most basic of conditions. UNFPA is helping with supplies, with midwives, with trained medical staff to actually make as many deliveries as safe for the mother and the child as possible. The Chad government, in spite of all of its own hardships and shortages and difficulties it is facing, in which I can clearly confess, having visited here, it must be one of the most difficult contexts on earth, has welcomed these refugees and displaced people with open arms, and we are helping the Chadian government to actually work with partners and ourselves to actually provide a basic level of care. And I am so impressed by that basic level of care we are able to provide with UNFPA, its partners and our donors' resources. But I must be realistic. We're only a drop in the ocean. We are in a terribly difficult environment here in Chad. However, I've seen the hardship. I've actually seen the actual good that donors' money brings when it's channeled through agencies such as UNFPA, the champion of women and girls, and the champion of so many of the markers that are behind in Chad. I've seen that good progress. I've seen how well it's accepted by the community. I've seen how well we work. And when we, how well we work with the Chadian government in places. We need to do more. We need more money to do more good.
We're off on a short break on Network Africa, still ahead. British scientists working to provide a solution against plastic waste. They're making plastic that self-destructs. Stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Plastic pollution remains one of the biggest challenges for any country. It portends great danger to lives, both human and animal, and because it does not self-destruct or biodegrade, the effects can continue for years to come. British scientists have been working to provide a solution to the problem that can be replicated in Nigeria. According to the United Nations Development Programme, Nigeria generates over 2.5 million tons of plastic waste annually, and a significant portion of the waste, often estimated to be over 88%, is not recycled, leading to severe pollution in communities, waterways and the ocean. Lagos alone, it says, contributes roughly 870,000 tons of plastic waste per year. Curbing the pollution has been a major headache for the government. Scientists with Polymateria, a British company, are providing a tailored biodegradable solution for conventional plastic packaging, aiming to stem the global plastic pollution endemic.
We describe it as a kind of two-step process. So that transformation to a wax happens very quickly. So in the tropical climate that you would have in Nigeria, that process will take around 3 months, and we've scientifically proven that. Actually, the paper for that is on the wall over there. But that takes about 3 months, and then the full biodegradation process of that wax, the standard, as I mentioned, allows it to happen in a maximum of 2 years. So if it takes longer than 2 years, it says no, it's not allowed. We've shown it can be quicker than a year. So that process is very quick. In the ocean, that's a good question. In the ocean, that transformation process to wax will still happen. The biodegradation would be different because you don't have the microorganisms that would eat the plastic on land. In the ocean, it's different. So it would transform to the wax, but it would not be in any way harmful. There's testing that's done as part of the standard, as was mentioned before, on water systems, and so there's no toxicity issue at all. One thing I would add is that when this company was being founded, we looked really carefully at where is the problem of plastic pollution most acute. And obviously the big focus is on the oceans. But actually, 80% of plastic in the ocean starts on land, right? It's not, plastic is not entering the ocean because of people throwing things off ships or things coming from beaches. That's a very small proportion. Most of it is plastic that starts on the land and over a period of time makes its way over the land into rivers or into oceans that way. And therefore, our theory of change to have the biggest impact most quickly is to stop the plastic on land before it can reach the ocean.
One of the scientists at its laboratory in Imperial College, White Lily campus in London, shows why its plastic self-destructs despite external factors.
So what we do is something called accelerated weathering, and we do that using these weatherometers here. And we've correlated our cycle that we perform in the lab to the outdoor environment, so we can understand how the materials perform in the external world. So we know that 14 days in our cycle here correlates to 3 months in a tropical environment. So that includes things like South Florida as well as Chennai, and Nigeria is perfect for this climate as
Lagos, to be exact.
Lagos, yes, yeah. It's perfect because we're able to clearly show how the technology performs well in those climates. We've also looked at other climates too. We have a very thorough understanding of different temperate and also arid environments. So whilst that's heating up, we'll just move over to here as well. So this is a different type of material that we're able to work with as well, in non-wovens. So this is a material without our technology in, and this is one with the material in. And what I want to highlight is how they look exactly the same and feel exactly the same. So feel free to kind of pick it up and have a little feel. And then what we do as well is expose these materials again to the accelerated weathering, and this next layer down, we're going to see how it's transformed into a wax type material. So this one doesn't have the technology in, and this one does. So this still has all of its structural integrity, and this one, if you pick it up, it starts to disintegrate in your hands like a wax. And you can feel it's got a waxy texture to it as well.
Testing is still ongoing on a wide range of plastic products produced at the lab. The hope is that we would one day have a world where plastic no longer becomes a problem, but a helpful addition to the ecosystem, because they're already self-destructive.
This is a little video that will show you
Amarachi Ubani,
technology
Channel
works.
Television
We'll build it as
News.
a time lapse. We did this both in two.
Innovation is lighting up classrooms in Bowtown, where local inventor Peter George is transforming a plastic and electronic waste into solar-powered school packs. Designed for children in off-grid communities, the bags charge during the day and provide hours of light at night, allowing students to study after dark without candles or kerosene. Well, this is all happening in Sierra Leone, where they're using recycled materials and discarded electronics to tackle both pollution and energy poverty at once.
I personally witnessed the firsthand of how children living in deprived rural communities, children going to school in these deprived rural communities here in Bow, that lack access to a reliable light system for them to study at night. And that problem was not only for me as a young boy coming up, it was a problem for other kids, for other children, for thousands of children living within the Bowtown community. So I saw that problem and I had to think and come up with a solution, not just any kind of solution, a solution that is practical, a solution that could solve other problems. Collecting electronic waste of any type, computer parts, radio parts, any type of e-waste, we have to collect this waste, then recycling them into power banks, solar lamp that comes with the bag. So now my bag, we use plastic waste to get the full set of the bag. Then we use electronic waste to have the e-component that works with the bag. So now I'm trying to turn waste into opportunity, turning waste into a reliable system that can solve educational problem, climate change, pollution.
I'm glad I get this bag because sometimes if lights not in a house, I use the lights way inside the bag or make I able to study. And while studying, I able to pass my exam.
Nigerians have been reacting to news of the death of Nollywood actor Alex Ekubo. Comedian Ayo Macron, reflecting on the actor's death, has called for greater empathy towards public figures facing private health and personal challenges. Macron was present at the hospital at the time of Alex's demise. He described Ekubo as peaceful at the time of his death, noting that the actor had not disclosed his illness to colleagues. He wrote on social media, "We lost Alex Ekubo, a young man, a colleague, a brother, a talent, and someone many people only knew through the smile he gave the world. Watching his lifeless body right in front of me, I can honestly say that even in death, he looked peaceful. He looked like someone who had carried pain quietly for too long and finally found rest." AY said the loss highlighted how many public figures managed serious health conditions, depression, loneliness, and family issues away from public view. The late Alex Ekubo's colleagues in Nollywood have been expressing their tributes on social media. Alex Ekubo died on Wednesday. He was aged 40. Prayers and thoughts with his family and friends. Now, did you know that there is a lion so rare it almost looks mythical? That's the majestic white lion you're seeing there. It's found only in southern Africa, especially around parts of the country. Unlike albino animals, white lions get their pale fur from a rare genetic trait called leucism, which gives them their stunning golden white coats while still keeping their natural eye color. For centuries, local communities considered them sacred and symbolic animals, and because they're so rare, spotting one in the wild is an unforgettable experience. These extraordinary lions remind us just how diverse and surprising African wildlife truly is. That's Network Africa. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi.